Welcome into this episode of Coach's Corner. Jordan Woodruff with you. Great to have you along. And we're joined today by head football coach Justin Rowland. This episode brought to you by Northern Oklahoma College. And Coach, after two wins, you played two really good teams, including a really tough Muskogee team in the last one. And you know what? Tough competition. You played better than what you maybe did a year ago against some of these teams. I know it doesn't help because you didn't get the win. But you start to feel like the schedule maybe opens up a little bit for you guys to go out there and get you some district wins.
No doubt. I was encouraged by the kids' willingness to keep fighting Friday night. It got rough early. Ball didn't break our way early, and they kept fighting. I think at all times we were still dangerous, but like you said, it's a rough patch in our schedule. You got Muskogee, and then we play PC North this week. Next week, probably the second best team in the district in Sand Springs. So it's rough, but man, just keep working and keep getting better.
And the thing is, Lawton Mac was a game you felt like you lost the game. It didn't really maybe feel that way with Muskogee because they're a good team. But I think there was a lot of things you guys could take out of there. The fact the offense could move the ball, you could throw the ball when you needed to. There's things that you can take out of there. And I don't know if you guys are going to face a tougher front line on each side of the ball the rest of this year until you get the playoffs.
No, yeah, they were physical up front. My boy Cooper plays center, and we talked before the game that's probably the best nose guard he'll play all year, and not just from a big standpoint. The kid had a motor. He played hard. I think one of the biggest differences when you void their end or you don't pick up their outside backers and stuff, they run that corner and they make the play. So for our O-line, I think is just, hey, now we got to stay on blocks. We got on blocks. Now we got to stay on them. And same thing defensively. Everything ratchets up when the athlete gets better. So that was the main thing.
It also looked like it was a good opportunity to maybe try some stuff for you guys last week against good competition because, Muskogee, it wasn't like they put in their subs. So and you guys kept it somewhat competitive where they couldn't do that. So I felt like you guys could, in a way, both offensively and defense, maybe try a few things that are a little different and see if it works against good competition.
For sure. I think the one thing about the offense is, you think tight formation, you think run the football, and which is something that we do well. But Johnson can also spin it, and the guys that are getting the ball running with it, they can receive it really well. Also, Ryder Trepton, I think since I've been here, he has the best natural hands that I've seen. So he's a kid that you can split out and you can get him the football. He can do stuff with, and that's kind of what you've seen. Probably didn't like the circumstances that you had to do it in. You kind of want to do it on your terms a little bit, but it is good to show that we can throw the football too.
Yeah, and I want to look at the offense. We've seen kind of the weapons over there. It's been spread out. We've had a lot of success on that side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball, there seems like in the last 2 weeks we've seen a couple of kids that are younger really step up. And, for you, coaching the defensive side of the ball on top of being the head coach, it has to be tough trying to figure out, it's a good problem to have, who's going to get the snaps because you got a bunch of guys that seem like they're pretty even, and you don't lose anything when that next guy comes out.
No, and I hope you're talking about Talon DeWeese.
Yeah.
He's another kid that just – you turn on the tape and you're like, man, he played really, really well. So you get that bright spot, and you know what you're going to get from Thaden. Ryan keeps getting better. He's also a young backer. But the D-line's really the same way. They're pretty young. And if they're not young, they're green, meaning they haven't played very much. Secondary's probably our most seasoned positions. And Jeremy Evans, that was his first game ever really playing against a high-level passing attack, so he'll keep getting better. Adriel got us off the pick snide, last week. He'll keep getting better. So, I mean, when you just look at that combination, you're going to see a little bit of a different combination every week because it's going to be based off of who practices the best.
Yeah, and, one thing I think you want to see more of, and you talked about Adriel getting the interception, you'd like to see more forced turnovers. And it's not like you're not in position. I feel like maybe defensively you've been in good positions. It's just that ball hasn't been knocked loose maybe as much as you want, or that ball that's tipped just hasn't gone to the right spot.
No, for sure, yeah. And it's one of those things when you look at what our offense does and how they do it, how devastating would it be to force a turnover and then they go on a 12-play, just grind you up drive, Just team football it's going to do well, But we've worked the last couple of weeks on really being ball disruptive and tackling them. I tell kids all the time, make them play another down. You don't know what's going to happen. Maybe a bad snap on 3rd and short. You never know. So get them on the ground. Let's get another chance to play again.
Well, and complementary football is something I think we don't talk a lot about sometimes. We look at it defense, offense, special teams, but they all work in concert. And, for instance, you get a big turnover last Friday night with the Moore interception, returns it to 12. You're unable to get points off that. And, the offense wasn't able to capitalize off that moment. And that's the complementary football part. That may change the whole face of the game if you get that. And, sometimes the offense is going good, like at Lawton Mack, but your defense can't get a stop.
Right.
And it's just maybe dial in that complementary football, I feel like, right now for you guys.
For sure, man. And if you look at, I think one of the biggest points in the game that I think in football is sudden change. Sudden change of defense, and they did it really well in that situation. But I think if you go back and ask our offensive guys, they say, hey, we got to score. If you don't get 6 or 7, you got to at least get 3, So, and that's another place, you get a freshman kicker. He's watching the game like everybody else, Hey, you're up to kick, tuck. And so there's parts of it where you keep getting better. But like you said, complementary football, if we can stop people and get it back to that offense, they're just going to wear them out. I think Muskogee was wearing out in the fourth quarter of that game. So it takes a little time, but like you said, it'll be working together.
Yeah, and once again, I think on your conditioning part, this team seems really well conditioned. They're there in the fourth quarter every time. But the other thing I also will say to that is it looks like we got through another week without any major injuries as well. And anytime you do that, and you got this week, you got Sand Springs next week, and then your schedule kind of really opens up. You feel really good about things if you get through the next couple of weeks. I mean, injuries are going to happen. Don't get me wrong. You're going to have stuff that happens. But, once again, I felt like me and you have sat here a lot of times over the years, even when you're defensive coordinator. We're talking about, we have 6 new starters in the lineup, not because a guy on the second team stepped up. It was because they had to step up because of an injury.
No doubt. And I think what the injuries give you is an opportunity to practice hard every day, because you're not worried about keeping somebody fresh or this kid being nicked up. So we've been really fortunate there, and it also gives an opportunity to just keep getting better. Graham's a new OC, already talked about the youth on the defense. So the more that they're able to practice and work at their craft, the better they're going to be. And we have been really fortunate. The nicks that we got are just that. They're just nicks, but keep plugging through it.
Yeah, and that's the thing I kind of look at is these guys, conditioning, injury prevention, all that stuff, it looks like. And like I said, that can come at any time. Coaches hate it. But you brought up the point that's maybe the most important. It's not necessarily what you get on the field itself. It's on that practice field. When you have, the one first-team offensive lineman able to go full speed against the first-team defensive lineman, both those guys are going to get better. And there's been times over the years where, it's shorts and helmets every day because you have 15 kids that are hurt, and you don't even have enough, you're down to the third string, a kid that's a sophomore you weren't expecting to play.
Yeah, it's tough. I think if you're going to get better in practice, and you always are going to have scout teams, but when you're going good on good, ones-on-ones, regardless what the schemes are, that level of competition always helps. And like you said, it gives you an opportunity to also play a good JV schedule. We playing a tough JV schedule this year. Why can't we do that? Well, we're not saving kids or not playing kids because of varsity, because of injury. And it's exactly that. I think something's got to be said for Coach Franklin in the weight room as well. Our kids lift hard all week. What I mean? They don't lift every day, but they get 3 to 4 really good lifts in. And I think it all ties in together.
Yeah, running, they run.
They run.
They condition hard.
Absolutely.
And that leads to this part. We talk about Putnam City North coming up, and this is a team. It's funny, you look at the scoreboard. You kind of in the first district, you kind of saw the hierarchy. I felt like of the district, right?
Yeah.
Because it was good teams on the ones that you feel like maybe aren't as strong. Mm-hmm. This game coming up turns into a huge game because Putnam City North get the big win over Putnam City West, and I know Putnam City. They're down, right? But still, they got the big win over them. And, you guys did scrimmage Putnam City, so you've already seen that as far as, in that film on them.
Yep.
But this game, you need to go out there and take care of business, because this is the difference of possibly getting a home playoff game or even working your way. Maybe you're top 2 in the district and a bye.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the game's been really good the past couple of years, really competitive. And like you said, they got some energy. I think they were on a 0-2 skid, then beat PC West last year, which down is what you look at it as, but they're going to be feeling really good. And I'll tell you this, it's a completely different team than what we played last year, so that'll be interesting. But it's a fun game. It's a big game. The implications are big, as you said, for us, because our schedule kind of settles up right for us, and this is a big part of that schedule setting up good.
Yeah, they're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
down there. That's what
absolutely.
makes it big, is they're saying, hey, you win this one, we could get that home playoff game.
Yep.
So it turns into a really big game for both these teams, which, that's the games you want to play in,
Absolutely.
games where a lot of stuff's on the line.
Absolutely.
As far as Putnam City North's concerned, last year, you guys, that was a great game. It kind of they pulled away at the end, scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to win that game. You felt like maybe that was a game that got away from you. You don't want that to happen again, naturally, but like I said, different team. You guys are different as well.
Yeah.
But there are some parts that are back, and I think kind of the way leading, they kind of got a 2-quarterback system, but at the same time, you've seen those guys before.
Yeah, no, they've been using both. I think they're settling in on one, and it was a kid that played last year. A little bit more designed run out of them this year. They're really athletic outside, nothing you haven't seen, but they're athletic outside. One difference is up front. Last year they were huge.
Yeah.
They had a really good senior-laden O-line. That's different. Had a really good senior tailback, so they're a little bit different there for us defensively. Offensively, we feel like, man, we can run the football on them. And you know what that means. If we can run the football on them, we control the clock. We can throw the ball when we want to. So it should be a good game, but it's a game we're feeling good about.
No, and that's the one thing I think for the offensive linemen and defensive line, for that matter, after what they had last week with big physical guys like Muskogee that were athletic too. I mean, that's the thing. These guys, like you said, the nose guards running side to side, making plays all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
So you saw that last week. You feel like, you hope that you get to a point in the field that's going to be like, okay, now we can take over a little bit. This isn't, we faced maybe the toughest fronts that we've had.
Yeah.
Now we can go out there and we can get a little bit more physical, and we can be the one that's dominating the line of scrimmage.
No doubt. Now, I think when you look at our O-line, even back in the last week a little bit, I thought the pocket for Johnson was pretty dang good, And then if you go back and watch the film clip by clip, there are plays that you are winning. But for sure this week, we're going to lean on that guys. So that running game, blow these holes open. Let's get after them. Let's be physical. They're also a team that runs kids both ways. We're pretty fortunate in that way, which we'll run Ryder a lot more this week both ways. But typically we don't have a lot of kids going both ways. So you're going to get that opportunity in that O-line to really be physical, move people around. And like I said, it should be a fun night for us.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Ryder, though, before we get out of here. The decision to have him play both ways, and I thought he really stepped up. I mean, he was kind of the star offensively and at points defensively as well. He earned minutes on defensive side, didn't he, in that game?
Absolutely. Ryder's a kid that he's the epitome of passion to play the game. If you ever want to look at your kid and wonder what your kid wants to do, well, if he goes into something and he shows what he showed, Ryder doesn't practice with us all week. He may practice for a period. He's doing a lot of offensive work, but he's one of those guys that I know as a DC, if I can put him in the game and just let him live off his passion, and he's super intelligent about the game, his instincts are high, he's going to make plays. And now he's, like you said, he's a guy that you're like, okay, you're about to go every play, so make sure the backup's ready here and the backup's ready here, but Ryder's going to stay on the field as much as we need him.
All right, and I think another thing, just with Ryder, I think everybody else as well, I'm not saying anything against past teams, but it seems like the guys you have out there this year, and a lot of those younger guys especially, they're football guys.
Yes.
Like this is a group that you talk about the passion and stuff that Ryder has. this group's kind of how they're coming together. Those upperclassmen leading the way, but also those underclassmen as well. I mean, this group, as far as like the passion and everything, I've seen it as much as I've ever seen in my life here in Ponca when I'm calling games. And for you, you were kind of special, that group that was the last to win, those 04, 05 seasons and everything. Yeah. You know what it's like to play on that side. Yes. Do you feel that way when you look at it as a coach, that this group, I mean, this is football guys. I mean, it's like the JV guys you play. There's guys that play on Friday night. They want to go play every snap they can.
Right. No, for sure. You know, we always pride ourselves on our kids going to other sports, right? But there's a lot of guys in this group that, like you said, man, they are football guys. Football's their number one sport. It's there for a guy like Ryder's staying there all year. You got to make him go run track. Cortez was staying there all year. You got to make him go do something. Adriel staying there all year. You got to make him go do something. So that part of it, it's true. And what it really does is it allows you to not just have fun as a coach, but you can coach them hard. And when you can coach them hard, you're always going to see that part of them get better. But it's awesome. I mean, you look at our O-line, it's the same way. Yeah, yes, guys like Cooper wrestle, you know, but like the twins, Blaze, Javi, they're football dudes. They throw a little in the track season, but they're football guys. Linebacker, secondary, same thing. Running back, quarterback. Johnston's a guy that he would be in there. Johnston would go straight from football to 7-on-7 and back to football. So just dudes that are ate up with loving it. Jeremy Evans, another kid, just wants to play football. So it matters, and I think you see that in their willingness to fight and kind of never say die attitude.
Yeah, I mean, there was times you could have folded against Muskogee last week, and they didn't. I mean, like I said, Ryder shined when the chips were down, going even on the defensive side. And that's the thing. That's kind of the point I'm bringing up is, you know, when we say football guys, it doesn't mean they're not playing the other sports, but you can tell these guys have a dedication and a love for the game, which makes your life easier because, like you said, you can coach them hard, and they're always, you know, they want to go look at that film and say, how do I get better?
Absolutely. No, the more. You know, Johnston, it was a great point not giving up, but Johnston got our Offensive Player of the Week. Ryder got the Player of the Week overall, and I told Johnston, I said, man, last year you might have gave up a little bit. And you didn't. You kept fighting through it. You kept finding plays. You kept running hard. There wasn't a lot of bickering going back and forth. Those right there are signs where you're growing as a team. You stop pointing the finger, start working. How do we get better? So for sure.
Yeah, so let's grow even more this week and see if we can't get a district win against Putnam City North. Coach, really appreciate the time as always.
Thank you for having me.
Coach Justin Rowland, this episode has been brought to you by Northern Oklahoma College. As always, thanks to Chris behind the camera. Until next time, Jordan Woodruff saying so long and go Cats.